Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Answers on Eschatology. My name is Dan Derry, and I am the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. Excuse me. We are back in Matthew chapter 24 today, and I want to share a few thoughts on verse 22. Now, I'll say up front that I am not set in stone on what I'm going to share with you. This isn't gospel, quote unquote, but it's just where I'm at with the text, and I'm open to opinions and different ideas on fulfillment of verse 22. So if you like, feel free to share, and if I can, I'll respond to those posts as well. Okay, so Matthew chapter 24, and 22. Let's read this. Unless those days had been cut short, no life would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. And it's literally, unless those days have been cut short, no flesh will be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Now, two things we need to understand. What days will be cut short, and who are the elect? Okay, number one, the days that will be cut short were the days of the Great Tribulation, which is in the verse before. For then will be Great Tribulation. And when would that Great Tribulation be? It would be when they saw the abomination of desolation. Matthew 24:15. So here's the time frame for this cutting short of these days. When they would see the abomination of desolation, they would flee the mountains. In those days would be Great Tribulation, Matthew chapter 24:21. And unless those days, the days of the Great Tribulation resulting from the abomination of desolation, were cut short, no flesh would be saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Now, number two, who's the elect? In this context, it's the Jewish Christians. Jesus was speaking to Jews in AD 30 when this was recorded, okay? When these, orally of course at that time, but these words were spoken by Jesus to his Jewish church, to his Jewish disciples. And the elect is a reference to Israel, okay? Romans chapter 9 verse 3, it was to the elect that the promises, the inheritance, the giving of the law, etc. have been given. So this elect were Jewish Christians. It was the remnant of Old Covenant Israel who would be saved in the last days. Now, here's what I want to share with you, is that I believe the cutting short of those days was a period at the beginning of the Great Tribulation where there was a break in that tribulation, okay? It had been shortened. And I'm going to try to demonstrate this to you from history and from Josephus regarding this text. So go with me. Sorry, don't go with me. You just listen. I'm going to quote a history off an internet article, and it's entitled "The Campaign of Cestius Gallus." So Cestius Gallus, he came into Jerusalem in approximately November of 66 A.D., and he was a Roman military leader, okay? And he came in to squash the rebellion because under Florus, who had plundered the people, plundered the temple of gold, and had just suppressed Jerusalem, the people rebelled. They stopped the sacrifices in 66 AD, etc., and war was declared against Rome, and Cestius Gallus was brought in to crush this rebellion. Now, listen to the history that I'm going to give you beginning in November 17th, 66 AD. Listen to this. Cestius advances on Jerusalem. He sets fire to the suburban districts, then moves to the wall of the upper city and pitches camp in the vicinity of the royal palace. November 22nd, Cestius suddenly gives up and retreats from the city without any reason in the world. So Cestius had essentially besieged Jerusalem, but for no reason at all, no identified reason, he pulls back. Now, this is what Josephus says regarding this. It was, I suppose, owing to the aversion God had already toward the city and the sanctuary that he delayed from putting an end to the war that very day. In Josephus's mind, Cestius Gallus could have taken Jerusalem that day. He could have completely squashed Israel. They were not prepared for the legions that he brought against Jerusalem, okay, in 66. But for some reason, and I believe it's for the sake of the elect, that those days would be cut short so flesh, the remnant of the flesh seed of Old Covenant Israel who had believed could be saved. Okay, that's what I believe. This is what I believe the cutting short of the Great Tribulation was. When Cestius came into Jerusalem, he had them under their thumb. He could have taken them, but for some unknown reason, except for the providence of Jehovah and his mercy toward his elect remnant, the remnant of Old Covenant Israel, Cestius withdrew. And listen to what Josephus says took place after his withdrawal. Now, something you understand, when Cestius withdrew, the Jews, okay, that is the rebels, those who had instigated and wanted this war, they pursued Cestius Gallus, and they overtook his army. They slaughtered a ton of them, okay? And that really initiated, for sure, initiated the Roman war. There was no turning back after that. But here's what Josephus says regarding what happened in Jerusalem after this time. Watch this. After this catastrophe had befallen Cestius, many of the distinguished Jews abandoned the city like swimmers from a sinking ship. In other words, the remnants for the elect fled. Okay, listen, the Jews who did not believe, they wanted to stay in the city. The majority, they wanted to fight. They wanted this war with the Romans. It was for the sake of the elect that Cestius fled. That watch this, the rebels pursued them. So up to this point, the rebels really tried to control a lot of the people into fighting this war. They wouldn't let them leave. If they would leave Jerusalem, they were considered deserters and they would be slaughtered. They would be murdered. At this time, the rebels pursue Cestius out of the city. They slaughter a bunch, and this gives the remnant. This gives the distinguished Jews, which obviously not all are Christians, but those who remained of the elect, who had not heeded the warning when they could have left earlier. When the abomination of desolation was first seen surrounding Jerusalem. But nonetheless, this gave the remnant one last chance to flee Jerusalem as swimmers abandoning a sinking ship, Josephus says. And listen, this is what I believe Jesus was talking about in Matthew chapter 4:22 when he says, unless those days have been cut short, no flesh would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Now, obviously, again, that's hyperbole. If the days wouldn't have been cut short, flesh would have been saved, right? But he's using, again, prophetic hyperbole to stress a point. This was the last chance. This was the last opportunity for any elect to leave the city, to leave Jerusalem before its final siege and demise between 67 and 70 AD. And that's how I interpret this, guys. So listen, like I said, just some thoughts regarding the text, and I love your comments. If I can understand this a little bit better, I'm all open to doing that. So we'll pick it up next time. Got more to share. Matthew chapter 24 next time on Answers on Eschatology. Bye for now.